What are some businesses in your area that you suspect may be doing something illegal, because you can't figure out how they stay open? There's a gas station that is consistently a 0.60 to 1 cheaper than every other gas station in town. Convinced that they are laundering front, but don't want them to go down because I want the cheap gas. I remember living in Little Italy in Cleveland, Ohio in the 1980s. I was operating a bakery there that was next door to a greeting card store. It was never open, and if you looked in the window you could see a greeting card rack with about 10 greeting cards on it covered with dust. One day one of the locals invited me to the back entrance, which led to a basement where a bunch of the locals were gambling, high-stakes gambling. Has anyone ever actually purchased a Persian rug? Because there are so many Persian rug stores and they are always empty, but they never close down from processions and stuff. There's a used car place that is always dead during business hours. Not a single soul or car around, dark inside, etc. However, whenever I drive by at night, say after 10 p.m., it's hopping. Cars everywhere, box trucks, forklift loading, unloading, etc. I've even driven by at 3 a.m. and there's activity. Very suspicious. Every mattress business in town, a tire and rim store. I was thinking about buying some new rims for my car a few years back, and there are a few stores on one street in my town. One of them had some signs and a few tires sitting outside, so I thought I'd go in and see what they had as well as their prices. I walked in the door and there were no tires or rims anywhere in sight. The only thing in the building was a group of very rough-looking Hispanic men who suddenly stopped talking when I walked in. They all just stood there staring at me with angry looks on their faces, so I just turned around and walked out with none of us saying a word. I'm autistic and even I could pick up on the vibe that they didn't want me there. My city has an abnormal amount of bars and eateries that are cash only. I'm gonna go out on a limb and say several of them probably don't have books that match reality when tax time comes. Over the past 20-ish years, this same little store in a strip mall by me has been about 15-ish different business. None of them ever open. They change the sign and never actually open up. Everything else in the strip mall has been there for ages and is a legitimate business. I think it's being used for money laundering, and before anyone catches on they close it down and open up a new business in the same storefront. There's a recording studio in my town, right in the village center. I never hear about any of the music that gets produced there, and it's just dudes coming and going during weird hours. It sometimes shuts down and isn't open for business for months, then reopens and the lights are on. Business name always stays the same. And we live in an area of upstate central NY where the arts aren't prevalent in our communities. Which sucks. It's boring as fuck, but yeah, it's definitely a shell business. There's a corner deli on my street. Have seen plenty of people leaving, though seemingly never after buying anything. My wife and I refer to it as the drug deli. They have built 4, you heard me, 4 car wash places in the last 2 years in my city, like 40k residents. Dedicated car washes, not a gas station with car wash. Also, there's a few of the big fancy-ass multi-level storage facilities that got built maybe 4 years ago that have had multiple new business names. Nice try, IRS. Arrival Smoke Shop Tobacco, Vape Joint, CBD, and low-grade THC has been busted 6 times for selling to underage. 2 were in separate undercover sting operations to make sure you ID everyone, as a sort of test. I don't understand how they are still open. Local psychic. I live in a predominantly Asian area. There is like 4 bubble tea spots on every block for a dozen streets. Some of them, like the brand name ones, are usually busy and I can see them making a lot of money. And other ones are like holes in the wall with no effort that still charge a similar price and no one is ever in there. I'm convinced those are fronts. There is a 24-hour fruit shop in my area. I've worked for a couple places like this, especially retail stores that were just set up in order to have a tax write-off for an empty building. There's a beat store I've been in a couple of times. Nice beads but super expensive. I never see any other customers going in or out. The counter person just stares at you and doesn't say hi or anything. Creepy. Candle shop. It's huge, in a small conservative city.